The night was colder than usual, and the wind carried dust from the broken fields. The human walked along the riverbank, his boots pressing into the wet ground. He was searching for scrap metal, anything useful that could be sold in the town market. His lantern light trembled in the wind, cutting through the darkness. Then he heard a faint sound, like a weak whisper carried by the water. He paused, holding his breath, and turned his head toward the broken reeds. There she was, a figure crouched low, trembling and covered in mud. Her hair was tangled with dirt, her clothes torn into strips, hardly covering her thin body. At first, he thought it was a child, but as she lifted her head, he saw her eyes glow faintly in the dark. Alien eyes, wide, scared, and full of something deeper, desperation. She reached out one shaking hand toward him, her voice breaking like dry leaves. "If you wash me and make me clean, I'll bear you strong children, human." The words cut through the silence of the night. His heart jolted. For a moment he thought he had misheard her, but she repeated the same strange plea, her lips trembling, her throat rasping. He took a step closer, unsure whether to run or to help. The girl was filthy, her skin hidden beneath layers of dried mud and grime. Her smell was strong, mixed with river water and something rotten. But her voice carried both fear and promise. He crouched, keeping some distance, and asked her name. She only shook her head, coughing hard, as if the act of speaking had stolen all her strength. She clutched at the earth, her nails cracked and black with dirt. She looked like she had been crawling for days, half dead, and yet her words came again, sharp and haunting. "Wash me, human, make me clean, and I will give you strong children." He did not understand. Was this madness? Was she sick? But her eyes locked on his, and for the first time he noticed the faint pattern glowing under the mud on her forehead. Some kind of mark. Tribal, maybe, but hidden. She tried to crawl toward him, her arms weak, her knees dragging through the dirt until she collapsed halfway. His hand tightened on the lantern handle. He was a simple man, no hero, no soldier, just someone surviving each day. But something in the way she begged made his chest heavy. Nobody would say such words unless they had nothing left. He looked around. The reeds swayed. The river rushed on, but no one else was there. If he left her, she would die before morning. He put the lantern down and pulled a water skin from his side. Slowly, he bent and offered her a drink. She stared at it like it was treasure, then took a shaky sip, water dripping from the corners of her lips. She coughed again, but her breathing eased. He poured some water over her hands, trying to wash off the thick crust of dirt. The grime peeled away in clumps, revealing pale skin beneath, scarred with strange cuts and burns. She pulled back suddenly, hissing as if water itself was burning her. Her whole body shook, and she muttered in her language, words he couldn't understand. Then she looked at him again, desperate, her voice breaking. "Please, make me clean. They said if I am washed, I can be free. Human, if you do this, I will bear you children, strong children." The human froze, his mind racing. Free? Who were they? What kind of promise was this? He wanted to ask, but her head dropped forward, and she fainted. Her body fell against his boots, her weight hardly more than a bundle of sticks. For a moment he stood there under the cold stars, his thoughts dark and confused. Taking her home would mean trouble. Anyone who saw him with her would ask questions. She was alien, filthy, maybe diseased, and her words carried strange meaning. But leaving her here was the same as killing her. He lifted her carefully, surprised at how light she was. Mud and dirt smeared against his clothes, and her hair clung to his sleeve. He felt the fragile beat of her heart against his chest, weak but alive. Her lips moved faintly, whispering again, almost in a dream. "Wash me, please. Make me clean." He carried her away from the riverbank, his lantern swinging by his side. Every step felt heavier, not from her weight, but from the choice he had just made. He did not know who she was, why she carried those marks, or why she begged for cleansing with such strange words. But he knew one thing clearly. Her story was not simple. And by taking her, his life would no longer be simple either. Behind him, the reeds swayed again, and for a brief second he thought he saw another shadow move between them. Watching. Waiting. The hair on his neck rose, but when he turned, there was nothing but the river's dark flow. He tightened his grip around her and walked faster, not knowing that the encounter tonight would lead him into a storm far bigger than he ever imagined. The girl lay on the old wooden bed, her breath shallow but steady. The human had placed her there after carrying her through the night. He lit a small fire in the corner of the room, its glow chasing away the shadows. His house was not large, only 2 rooms, but it was warm and safe compared to the cold riverbank. He sat on a stool, staring at her face, now half visible under streaks where the dirt had been washed away. Her skin underneath was smooth but scarred with fine lines, marks that looked like burns or lashes. When she stirred, her lips parted, and she whispered again, her voice no louder than the crackle of the fire. "Wash me. Make me clean." Her eyes opened slowly, glowing faint gold in the dim light. He looked away, unsure whether she was awake or lost in fever. He brought a bowl of warm water, dipping a cloth inside. When he touched her hand to wipe off the dirt, she flinched violently, her body curling as if expecting a blow. He froze, his chest tightening at the sight. Gently he spoke to her, telling her he would not hurt her. She blinked, staring at his face as if searching for lies. Only after a long silence did she slowly open her hand, allowing him to clean the cracked skin. The dirt peeled away in layers, and each layer revealed another scar. It was as if her whole body had been carved by cruelty. He clenched his jaw but said nothing, only wrung the cloth and continued. She breathed heavily, her shoulders tense, but she did not stop him this time. As he worked, she whispered more, her words breaking like glass. "If you make me clean, my people will accept me again. But I am cursed. They said no one would touch me, not even my own." Her voice trembled, her eyes wet though no tears fell. "Only a human can break it. That is why I begged you." His hand paused. He could not make sense of what she said. A curse? Her people rejecting her? And why would a human be the one to break it? He looked at the glowing mark on her forehead, now clearer after the dirt faded. It shimmered faintly like a buried star. He asked her name, but she only shook her head. "No name until I am clean. A name cannot be spoken in filth." The fire popped, breaking the silence. He leaned back, studying her fragile body lying there. She was more than just an alien beggar. Something about her words, her scars, her strange mark told him she carried a story he was not ready to hear, yet he was already tied to it. Suddenly, a knock rattled the wooden door. He stiffened, placing the bowl aside. No one visited him at this hour. He stood, listening. Another knock came, louder, demanding. He glanced at the girl, her eyes widened, panic flashing across her face. She clutched his sleeve with surprising strength. "Don't let them take me," she whispered sharply. "They will kill me. They will bury me alive in mud again. Please, human." His stomach turned cold. He moved quietly to the door and pressed his ear against it. Outside, voices murmured, harsh and unfamiliar. One voice spoke clearly through the wood. "We know she is inside. Hand over the dirty one, human. She is not yours to keep." He stepped back, heart pounding. How had they followed so quickly? The girl was trembling, her fingers still locked around his sleeve. He looked at her, then at the door. He knew one thing with sudden clarity. If he opened it, he would lose her forever. The door shuddered under a heavy blow. Dust fell from the ceiling. She tried to rise but was too weak, collapsing back onto the bed. He grabbed the metal rod from beside the fire, his only weapon, and stood in front of her. The voices outside shouted again, threatening this time. "Last chance, human. Give her to us, or you will be buried with her." His grip tightened on the rod. The fire's light danced across the girl's frightened eyes. She whispered once more, her voice hoarse yet full of a desperate strength. "Wash me, protect me, and I will bear you children strong enough to stand against them." The door groaned as another blow struck. He raised the rod, ready for what was coming, not knowing if he was defending a stranger or the key to something far greater. The door held through the night, though each crash against it shook the small house like a storm beating against weak walls. At last, the voices faded into the darkness, their threats carried away by the wind. When silence returned, the human leaned the rod aside, his arms trembling with exhaustion. The girl had fallen into a restless sleep, but even in dreams she whispered broken words, pleading not to be taken back. At dawn, he walked into the village to fetch food. People stared the moment he stepped into the market. They noticed the stains of mud on his clothes, the smell of river water clinging to him, and they whispered. He ignored them, buying bread and dried meat, but 2 neighbors approached, their voices sharp. "We saw shadows near your land last night. You brought something home, didn't you?" He said nothing, only turned away. But the words spread faster than fire. By the time he returned, whispers followed him like crows circling the sky. The girl sat weakly on the bed when he entered, her glowing eyes heavy with worry. He handed her bread, and she held it carefully, as if she had never touched food with her own hands. "They know," he muttered, sitting down. The village saw something. Her hands shook, tearing the bread into tiny pieces. She did not eat right away. "They hate my kind. They call us unclean. Even my people abandon me. They believe dirt marks are shame." She pressed her fingers to the faint, glowing scar on her forehead. "This mark made me different. They buried me alive to hide me from the world." The human's jaw tightened. He had heard rumors of alien slaves treated worse than animals, but to see the truth in her trembling hands was different. She finally nibbled at the bread, swallowing slowly, then looked at him with fear. "They will come again, not only to take me, they will punish you too. No one is allowed to touch a dirty one." Her words echoed the whispers in the market. Already the villagers called him cursed for giving her shelter. He thought of the neighbors' stares, their suspicion. Soon someone would report him to the authorities. He leaned back, his hand pressed over his face. "Why me?" he asked quietly. "Why a human?" She lowered her eyes. "Because your people do not follow our laws. You do not see us as cursed. Only a human can wash away the filth without fear. If you make me clean, I can be whole again." Her words cut into him like a knife. To him, washing was simple, a bucket of water, a cloth, soap, but to her it was something more, something sacred. A ritual, a bond, a promise. He had not chosen this burden, yet it had fallen on his shoulders. Outside, footsteps crunched near his door. He peeked through a crack in the wall. 3 men from the village stood there, whispering among themselves, one pointing toward his house. His stomach sank. The girl's eyes followed his movements, reading the fear on his face. "They will call me plague. They will burn your home to drive me out. You must decide now, human. Either send me away or stand with me." Her words were soft, but her gaze was steady. Despite her frail body, despite the dirt and scars, her spirit glowed brighter than the mark on her forehead. He looked at her and saw not just a broken alien girl, but someone carrying a weight too heavy for anyone alone. The voices outside grew louder, demanding. His hand went to the metal rod again, but she caught his wrist with surprising strength. "No," she whispered. "Strength is not only in weapons. If you accept me, if you wash me, they cannot break us." The men outside pounded on the door, shouting for him to surrender her. The girl stared at him, waiting for his choice. His chest rose and fell with the weight of it. To protect her meant to defy the village, maybe even the empire. To give her up meant betraying the desperate plea that had bound itself into his heart the moment he heard it. The shouts outside demanded action, but inside the room there was only silence, broken by her faint whisper. "Wash me, and I will never leave your side." The human waited until the angry voices outside faded into the distance. He sat by the dying fire, his face buried in his hands, trying to make sense of everything. The alien girl watched him quietly, her body still weak, but her eyes burning with a strange resolve. When the silence stretched too long, she spoke again, her words carrying weight that seemed older than both of them. "In my people's law, dirt is not just dirt. It is a curse, a mark of rejection. When they cover someone in mud and leave them to rot, it means that person is erased. No one may touch them. No one may even speak their name. To wash such a one is not just to clean, it is to claim them." Her voice trembled, but her gaze held steady on his. "If you wash me, human, you will tie yourself to me. You will be my bond, my proof of life. They will not see me as cursed anymore. They will see me as yours." His breath caught at her words. The meaning was deeper than he had thought. Washing her was not only saving her life, it was accepting her fate as his own. He stared at the bucket of water beside the bed, the rag floating on its surface. His rough hands shook slightly. "You ask me to risk everything," he muttered. "If I do this, I'll make enemies of both your people and mine." "You already have," she whispered, her lips pale. "They saw you carry me. They will not forget. But if you do this, you won't just have an enemy. You'll have me." Her words clung to him like the smoke of the fire, hard to escape. He looked at her scars, the broken skin beneath the grime, and he thought of the way she had clutched his sleeve in terror, begging not to be taken. She was not lying. She had already been abandoned once. Another abandonment would kill her. He dipped the cloth into the water. The girl stiffened, her breath catching as he lifted it. He pressed it gently against her arm. The mud loosened, sliding down in dark streaks to the floor. Beneath the dirt, her skin shimmered faintly, strange patterns glowing like hidden fire. She winced but did not pull away. The cloth moved again, this time over her shoulder. The glow spread slowly, faint symbols marking her body like a language carved into her skin. He paused, startled. She whispered, "This is why they buried me. The mark of my bloodline. They feared it." He swallowed hard, wringing the cloth, and kept going. Each layer of dirt revealed more of the shining designs etched into her body. They were not scars, but living patterns, pulsing softly as though they breathed. Her head tilted back, eyes half closed, her voice trembling. "You are undoing what they cursed. With every wash, you make me whole again." The human's chest tightened. He was not just cleaning her, he was awakening something. He could feel the weight of her culture pressing down on him, but he did not stop. He washed her arms, her face, the grime breaking away until her features shone clearer, more beautiful, but not fragile. There was strength beneath her weakness, strength her own people had tried to bury. When he reached the mark on her forehead, she caught his wrist, her grip like iron despite her frailty. Her golden eyes burned into his. "If you touch this human, you bind yourself to me forever. Do you understand?" His throat tightened. The fire popped behind him. The outside wind howled, but inside the small house, the world seemed to pause. He thought of the village, of the threats, of the danger. Then he thought of the night he found her, broken and begging, and the promise she kept whispering. Children strong enough to stand against anyone. He did not pull back. Slowly he pressed the cloth against her forehead. The dirt melted away, and the mark flared like a brand, filling the room with soft golden light. Her breath caught and her body shuddered, as if chains had snapped inside her soul. She collapsed forward into his arms, her voice breaking in both fear and relief. "It is done. I am yours now, human. They will come for me, but they cannot erase me again. Not while you live." The light faded, but its echo lingered in the room. The human held her tightly, his mind racing with the weight of what he had just done. Somewhere beyond the horizon, he felt a storm stirring, drawn toward the glow he had uncovered, and now there was no turning back. Night fell heavy over the village, but his house did not sleep. The girl lay wrapped in an old blanket, her body weak, yet her skin glowing faintly where the patterns had been revealed. The human sat near the fire, his ears alert to every sound outside. He had crossed a line that could never be undone, and he knew it. The first stone struck the wall just before midnight. He jumped to his feet, gripping the metal rod again. More stones followed, thudding against the wooden walls, shouts echoing outside. "Bring her out, human. The cursed one has no place here." The girl stirred, her eyes opening wide in fear. "They know," she whispered, her voice trembling. "They can sense the cleansing. My glow is a beacon to them." The human moved to the window, peering through the gap. Torches burned in the darkness, carried by a crowd. Men, women, even elders, all had come together, their faces twisted with fear and hate. The mark on the girl's forehead had changed everything. To them, it was proof not of her curse being broken, but of danger awakened. The door shook under the first heavy kick. He stood before it, rod raised, but his mind raced. He could fight, but he could not fight them all. His house would not last against fire. He turned to her. "We can't stay here. We have to move." Her breath caught, and she tried to rise, but her legs gave out beneath her. She gripped the bed frame, struggling like her teeth clenched. "I can't walk far. My body is not ready. But if they take me, they will bury me again. Alive." The human grabbed his pack, tossing in what little food he had. He pulled her up, lifting her into his arms despite her protest. She was light, too light for someone her age, and the warmth of her glowing skin pressed against him. He kicked open the back door, slipping into the night as shouts grew louder from the front. The village behind them roared like a storm. Torches spread through the streets, voices chanting curses. Dogs barked, children cried, and the sound of chaos filled the air. He moved quickly through the fields, the girl's arms weakly clutching his neck. She whispered into his ear, her voice fragile but steady. "They will hunt us, but you chose me, human. That choice cannot be undone." He did not answer. The truth of her words was already burning inside him. Every step forward carried him further from safety, deeper into something unknown. They reached the edge of the woods, the shadows swallowing them whole. The girl stirred, her glowing marks dimming as exhaustion overtook her again. He laid her down against a tree for a moment, breathing hard. In the distance, the torches spread, a flood of light moving outward, searching. Then a different sound rose, a sharp horn, deep and alien. The girl's eyes shot open, panic flooding her face. Not villagers, them, my people's hunters. They followed the glow. The human froze. It was no longer just the village against him. Something far worse was closing in, creatures who had cast her into the mud in the first place. The horn sounded again, closer now, and the trees shook as if the forest itself knew who had entered. She clutched his hand, her voice breaking. Run if you must. They will not forgive you for touching me. They will tear you apart. But if you stay, if you fight, then my life is yours. The human stared at her, at the glow of the mark on her forehead, at the fire in her eyes despite her broken body. His chest rose with a breath that felt heavier than the world. Behind them, the hunter's footsteps shook the ground, the glow of the torches growing nearer. Ahead, only darkness and the unknown waited. He lifted her once more into his arms, his grip tightening around her. The night seemed to close in as the voices of enemies, both human and alien, rose from the shadows. Whatever came next, he had already chosen his side. The forest swallowed them whole, its branches clawing at the human's clothes as he pushed forward with the girl in his arms. The sound of the hunters grew louder behind them, sharp voices calling out in a language he did not know. The girl trembled, her glowing marks dimming as though she was trying to hide her presence, but faint light still pulsed beneath her skin. They reached a clearing where the moonlight poured down like silver. He set her on the ground gently, breathing hard. She looked up at him, her face pale but determined. You washed me. You awakened the blood in me. They will never forgive it. But now, I am not powerless. Her hand pressed against her chest, and the glowing marks spread across her skin like living fire. For a moment, she looked taller, stronger, her frailty wrapped in a mantle of strange power. The human stepped back, startled, as the air around her seemed to hum. Then the sound of branches snapping made him spin. Figures emerged from the trees, tall and cloaked, their eyes cold and sharp. Their weapons gleamed faintly in the moonlight. One of them pointed at her, his voice harsh and commanding. The cursed one, return her, human, and you may live. The human gripped the metal rod tighter. He stood between them and her, his breath steady now, despite the fear burning inside him. She stays with me. The hunters laughed, a cruel sound. They advanced slowly, certain of their victory. Isaf. But then the girl rose, unsteady but fierce. Her marks flared brighter, casting golden light across the clearing. The hunters froze, their laughter dying. One of them hissed, stepping back. The blood of the first line? Awakened? Her voice rang out, weak but unbroken. You buried me to erase the truth, but he made me clean. Your curse is broken. The hunters snarled, spreading out to surround them. The human moved closer to her side, his rod raised, ready for the fight he knew he could not win. Yet something inside him had changed since he touched the mark on her forehead. He no longer saw her as a stranger. He saw her as his. The first hunter lunged, weapon flashing. The human swung the rod with all his strength, striking metal against metal. Sparks flew. The girl lifted her hand, and the glowing marks pulsed. A shockwave burst outward, throwing the attacker back into the trees. The human stared at her in disbelief, but she only whispered, "This is what you freed. Together, we are stronger." The hunters hesitated now, their confidence cracking. They looked at the girl not as a cursed creature, but as something dangerous, something powerful. One barked an order, and two rushed forward again. The human fought with everything he had, blocking strikes, his muscles screaming with each clash. At the same time, the girl's glow grew brighter, each wave of light striking the hunters with invisible force, slowing their advance. But the effort drained her. She staggered, nearly falling, and he caught her with one arm while still swinging the rod with the other. The hunters regrouped, circling, their eyes burning with fury. "You cannot fight them all," she whispered, her voice fading. "But if I fall, my glow dies with me. You must keep me alive, no matter what." The human's jaw clenched. He looked at the hunters, then at her glowing skin pressed against his chest. The choice was already made. He would not let her fall. The hunters lunged again, and the clearing exploded with the clash of metal, fire, and desperate cries. The night itself seemed to hold its breath as the human and the once dirty alien girl fought side by side, bound by a bond neither of them had expected, but both were now willing to die for. The clearing smelled of smoke and blood. Broken weapons lay scattered across the ground, and the hunters who had come with such confidence now retreated into the shadows, their cloaks torn, their faces pale with fear. The girl leaned heavily against the human, her glow fading but not gone, her breathing ragged. The human's arms and clothes were streaked with cuts, his rod bent nearly in half, but his eyes still burned with defiance. The last hunter glared at them from the edge of the trees, his voice sharp with hate. "You cannot keep her. She carries a bloodline that does not belong in your filthy hands. This bond will bring war." The human tightened his hold on her, lifting the broken rod in his other hand. "Then let war come. She is mine now." The hunter hissed, retreating into the dark. Silence fell over the forest, broken only by the crackling of a fallen torch still burning in the grass. The girl turned her face toward him, her golden eyes glimmering with both exhaustion and wonder. "No one has ever spoken for me like that. Even when I begged on my knees, no one answered. But you chose me." He looked down at her, dirt and sweat streaking his face. Maybe because I couldn't walk away. Maybe because you asked me with more strength than anyone else ever had. Her trembling fingers touched the mark on her forehead, now fully revealed, glowing softly in the moonlight. "This bond is forever. By washing me, you took my curse and my bloodline into yourself. Our fates are one." The human swallowed hard, the weight of her words pressing deep into him. He had not only saved her life, he had accepted a destiny he did not understand. He thought of his quiet days before this night, and how far they felt now. There was no going back. The girl pressed her forehead to his chest, whispering words that sent a shiver through him. "I will bear you children, human. Not weak, not broken, but strong. Strong enough to stand against both your kind and mine. That is my vow." For a moment, the world seemed to still, as though even the stars leaned closer to listen. He held her tighter, feeling the truth of it settle in his bones. She was no longer the dirty alien girl crawling by the river. She was a survivor, a lost heir, and now bound to him by something unbreakable. But in the silence he heard another sound, the distant roll of drums carried by the wind. Not the hunters, but something greater. Armies. Her bloodline had stirred forces far beyond this forest. The girl lifted her head, her expression calm despite her weakness. "They will come for us, human. For me, for the bond, for the children I promised you. The galaxy itself will shake." He looked out into the night, gripping her hand, his jaw set. He had not asked for this, but he would not run from it. Whatever came, he would face it with her at his side. The fire of her mark flickered one last time, painting their faces in gold. In that glow, two fates, once broken and cast aside, had been tied together forever, and nothing, not curses, not hunters, not even war, would be strong enough to break it.